that, or for the child to become male, so which is your Y chromosome popping in, because the woman is XX and the man is XY. So the Y is the one that's going to come in and change the whole thing, and all that stuff. So now use that biology, because our ancestors formed customs and practices based on the observing nature, observing the birds and the trees and the plants and everything. And from that, they developed the wisdom traditions that so many nations of the world have marveled upon after having seen what they could accomplish just from that. So, because of that, our ancestors figured, okay, since the biology works like that, a boy is not born a man. He has to undergo a certain process to become a man. And that is what we call the rites of passage. And these are this is where you have the origins of secret societies. And so, in the Xhosa tradition, one of the ethnic groups in South Africa, when if let me say you're a 20-year-old young man and you have not gone through the rites of passage, and an 18-year-old young man has gone through that process, in that tradition, you who is 2 years older, you're an elder in terms of your age, you might be his older brother, uh, you are considered a junior to him. He is considered a man. He can stand in the council of men. He can be recognized. You are called Nkwenkwe. Nkwenkwe translates to a boy, but it has somehow a different meaning. With various languages, certain words tend to have a different layer to a meaning than just that. Because when the greatest insult you can throw at a Xhosa man is call him Inkwenkwe, which is very different to saying in Zulu umfana. Like if you say umfana, it does not feel Zulu. A Zulu man will not really be as insulted as, obviously, generally the word calling a man a boy is insulting, but in the Xhosa tradition, it's a real insult. It's like the worst insult you can throw. You're gonna throw a man into a posture uh, of a fight. So the reason they had that is um, there is something that happens at that rite of passage, and the things that they teach there, they teach. And obviously, what a lot of people do not understand is that it's not about just that event of you going through that ceremony, which is probably within a month or so. Uh, a month is obviously not enough for you to go to just go through a rite of passage and be a man. And I thought about it. I'm like, how is a month enough? Until I read in Baba Vusamazulu, Credo Mutwa's book, Indaba My Children. No. Is it in that, or yeah, it's in that book, where he explains how the wisdom tradition is received. Because if you go to a community, in any African community, you have the elders who carry the secret wisdom. And this secret wisdom held amongst the elders of the secret society is not known by the commoners. We have not gone through that rite of passage, or that part of initiation, because there are so many different initiations. So they are then the highest form of knowledge within that community or the society. But he explains that before you can go to the Hogan of the Dogon as a Dogon child, he explains that first you must go and ask your mother and father questions. When you have exhausted their pool of knowledge to your, obviously that would be determined about the by the quality of your questioning and the depth of your thirst, because your parents can only give you what you're asking for, which means that's what you can handle. And you go to your grandmother and your grandfather. And when you've gone through the highest ranking of elders within your royal or your bloodline, only then can you go to the whole god of the Dogon as a Dogon child. So I think about it, I'm like, which means that the men in the mountains that take these men through a month of rite of passage are not the beginning. It does not begin in the mountains. It begins at a very young age. When you're born, growing up, your parents are not just raising you so you can just grow up like we do today. Like, oh, my child is growing up, you buy them new clothes, take them through school, so they can fit into this uh, cosmos of society that we have today. But there was a vision of what a man is supposed to contribute to our community, or a child is supposed to become, so that they can contribute to the culture of the community, or the continuity of what this community or this group of people represent. So the training started at a very young age, and I've mentioned in various of our spaces that the concept of teenage or adolescent stage is something that did not exist in Africa. And of course, it was created in the West. It's not a natural thing. As anyone who knows that has studied African history and culture, uh, boys as young as 12 could be kings and husbands, and which means they could be uh, other forms of authority within the community. They could become a judge, they could become a chief, uh, and it does, those children raised like that are very different to children today, because children today are told, no, you're still a child, go and play and have fun, watch TV, and you're growing up, and then go to school, and then at the end you go and work for that company. But go and look at a Jewish child, that your child is going to work. Who's the owner? Who's going to be the owner of the company that your child is going to work for? They don't grow up like a child running around, just living. Oh, it's just a child. They get trained at a very young age. And there's certain things they need to um, have been able to master by a certain age, 12 and whatnot. So that obviously determines tomorrow who's going to be the master and the servant. Is based on which children get trained from a young age with a purpose, with an actual program, like you are in the military. Even the whole military system was born out of African systems of rites of passage. We gave these people, the Jewish people, that they're actually using our system to dominate us. And so, through this rite of passage, one of the things I spoke to a Xhosa lady, because when I speak to people, I always grab stuff from them and add to my whole mental cosmos, you know. So just small conversations I have with people, I gain quite a lot. And so this Xhosa lady told me, as a woman, she has no idea, obviously, what happens, and she will never know, because even if she has a son, her son will not tell her, because he's not supposed to. So won't even tell his cousins, even the songs that they sing there. So now, but what she told me was one of her own observations. She found that Xhosa young boys like fighting. They like picking a fight anywhere, like they really just like a street fight anytime. Pick a fight, very aggressive. And then she says she noticed that when they come back from this rites of passage, that level of aggression kind of drops. They're more chilled now. And I'm like, so what happens? So I asked them, like, so what happens now? This young aggressive man, he he wants to now take on a guy from the who has gone through the rites of passage, and she says they don't. They understand that you don't mess with that guy. You know, sometimes that it might not necessarily be because he's just afraid of him personally, or maybe they are higher consequences. So it depends. I didn't really get much into that. So it was quite interesting for me the fact that after having gone through the rite of passage, this is her telling me that, you know. And obviously today, when I speak of this, these generally disclaimer, some that people must understand is that African practices today, in general, have been diluted. A lot of the stuff has been compromised through, especially capitalism. You know, most of the things our people embrace today, they do things because they're motivated by money. People will do um, lobola, where you take a wife, where it was originally about um, introducing your bride to the ancestors and whatnot, and now it's more commercial. People will do it. People will say they don't do this ancestral stuff because they're Christian. They'll still collect it, this lobola, because they just want to get the money and charge. Then it's no longer lobola. It now becomes a bride price. So there's quite a big difference between the two. So even there's rites of passage that still continues initiation schools today. A lot of them have been diluted. They people open these schools and they amateurs, and because now people pay. In ancient times there was no fees that you actually pay in that sense. I'm not really sure exactly how they did it. I just I just now got a note to go and ask the elders exactly how they did it back then. But a lot of the things you, in general, people as a community would give as a gift, a service. People would give a service, just like in ancient Africa, in old African societies, we didn't have guest. We had guest houses, but you didn't pay a guest house fee. It was a house where, even as a stranger, you could just come in and you rest in. They give you the guest room, and then they give you food, and you wake up and you go. They're not even your relatives, you know. But every family had a guest house in case there was a man passing by who needed a place to sleep. So um the commercial, what's this, the capitalism obviously diluted a lot of the things. So, but so people should bear in mind of that sometimes you will find some people will say, "Oh, but I know so and so. He went through that, but he still acts like an FBI or whatever." So, but people that went through the unadulterated process, they came out as men. And when I look at the example she gave me about them being less aggressive, um, I, I've been discussing this with the ladies who are around me, and they'll be shocked when I actually tell them that alpha males, I told them beta males, uh, the for those maybe that are not familiar with the term, I'm sure everybody has heard the term. The alpha male is your king, and then your beta, because there's alpha and beta, and that follows in that sequence. So if there's an alpha male, so obviously the second best would be the beta. So I explained to them that the masculine man, or rather women, are in danger or around feminine men. And I said that masculine men are the reason why you are safer. And they were shocked because they're like, how? And I explained to them because they thought the the unthreatening black man, that one, the unthreatening black man, the beta male, is makes white people safer, but he makes his community unsafe. He is a danger to his community because a masculine man is not violent. When I say violent, you need to put it into perspective. Obviously, a man, if he needs to defend himself, he might use a form of violence. But when I mean violent and aggressive, I mean irrational violence, um, out of emotions because someone pissed you off and you're going on a rampage and uh, that is due to a void of masculinity. I think we had a bit of this discussion in the previous space, so don't want to dwell too much on some of the things we discussed. So when I explain to them, they're like, "Really?" Because uh, what feminists don't understand when they speak of toxic masculinity is that there is nothing toxic about masculinity. What is toxic is a man who is void of masculinity. Because if you get is one of the my favorite uh, fighters. Or he's actually an African American actor. He's a martial artist, and that brother I follow him on YouTube. He's got some really cool stuff. I just need to remember his name. So, but what you when he spoke about the incident about between Will Smith and Chris Rock, and he says like he was disturbed with that. He didn't even want to see it because he says something very interesting. He says he cannot stand bullies. And I remember growing up, like I just couldn't stand bullies. Like anybody, like if you bully me, if you're a big guy, I'm gonna find someone your size. I'm gonna tell them you said 1, 2, 3, whatever. So, but yeah, back in school anyway. So what you find there is that what is a bully? A bully is someone, because he used the word bully. The word bully, a bully is someone that feels weak. They avoid it's a void. So they want to fill that void by feeling strong. So they go and pick on someone weaker. So we go back to the days of mining in the mines in South Africa in the 70s, whatever. So a white man oppresses you, treats you like a boy. Our grandfathers who worked in the mines were at the end of the shift you had to be stripped naked so they could check that you did not steal the precious metals that are under the ground of your ancestors because they now belong to Elizabeth of Buckingham Palace. And so with that, before you physically strip naked, the way you are treated, they call you like a boy. The whole day you are castrated spiritually, mentally. The white man is castrating you because you, even if you look at him, you think I can beat his ass up, but you're not even gonna think about it because um, you're gonna lose your job, and then well, how you gonna feed your children? So that's where you see that physical strength then does not really fulfill the whole role of masculinity, as in the case of Samson, because a man who's physically less stronger than you, if he feeds you, it is a source of your sustenance, then he can strip you of your manhood. He can treat you however. So at the end of the shift, you are stripped naked and searched. You got your hands up and you are naked, butt naked, and you're a father. You go back home. You have a wife that respects you and children that call you father, right? And that obviously does something to you. You're not gonna walk out feeling like, uh, yeah, as a man.